what we notice in children who are affected by food insecurity is, the stress that the family is under directly affects the children as well, but that may manifest as behavior issues, right? They may be more likely to act out. If you're either very stressed or hungry, you can't focus. And for children, that means they're not doing well academically. And if they're not able to focus in class, what are they doing? They're acting out. So maybe the teacher is telling the parent, you need to get your child evaluated for ADHD.
More than 73% of Americans have overweight or obesity, while more than 12% have food insecurity. America is getting heavier, sicker, and more isolated from each other every day. Our motto, Move, Eat, Give, reflects our belief that virtually every problem in America could be fixed if we took better care of ourselves and took better care of each other. Welcome to Interrupt Hunger's Move, Eat, Give podcast, where we talk with experts in exercise is medicine, food is medicine, and food insecurity. And understanding that knowledge isn't always enough to help you lose weight. Every other episode showcases someone who's lost at least 10% body weight to share exactly how they did it. Interrupt Hunger is a 501c3 nonprofit which helps you lose weight while feeding the hungry. Bring our free 12-week weight loss challenge and donate your weight program to the places you live, work, and pray. We fund our mission with sales from our Move, Eat, Give bracelets and clothing, so please visit us at interrupthunger.org to show your support. 50 meals are donated for every item sold to the nation's largest hunger relief network. So you get to look good while feeling good. Now on to today's episode.
Hey everyone, thanks for joining us. It's Jolly with Interrupt Hunger. Today's episode is part of our Healthiest Small Town series. We're trying to make Bernie the healthiest small town in Texas, and we're going to build in public to show others how we do it. Think of this series as a how-to guide so you can help make your community healthier too. So today we're going to learn how to screen for food insecurity and start a food pantry and a medical practice with Dr. Angela Black, a pediatrician at Corridor Pediatrics in San Marcos, Texas. Dr. Black, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. It's really a pleasure. I enjoy listening to your podcast, and it's an honor to be a part of your show.
Very nice of you. Thanks. Dr. Black has her own podcast, Eat Your Greens with Dr. Black. And I got to tell y'all, I have learned so much about our bodies, plant-based eating, not vegetarian on my end, but plant-based eating, from, why it's more important to eat your fiber, to how to kids to eat healthier, and everything in between. We'll let her talk about that at the end of it. You are on a journey of your own, and you're doing some neat things in San Marcos. So before we get to that, why don't you just tell us about you and your practice, and just give us an idea of what San Marcos is.
Great, sure, absolutely. So I am a board-certified general pediatrician, and I have been in practice for a little over 20 years, which I just hate saying because it sounds like a long time. I went to medical school in San Antonio at the University of Texas Health Science Center and graduated in 97. I did my internship there, and then I finished my training in Miami, Florida, and started my practice there, but quickly moved back to Texas because, as you know, being a Bernie resident, the Texas Hill Country is the best place to live, and I just couldn't stand being away. So my family and I moved back in 2003, and I've been practicing here ever since then. Corridor Pediatrics is a really great group of doctors. There's about 10 of us. We're adding a new doctor this summer. And we are General Pediatrics, a privately owned group here in San Marcos, the gateway to the Hill Country. San Marcos is great because it's a good, small to medium size. I think we like to think of ourselves as a small town, but being on the I-35 corridor, maybe we don't qualify for that anymore because the area has been growing so fast. But we're a university town. We have Texas State University. We have the San Marcos River. Everybody loves to go tubing on the river. We have the outlet malls that people like to go shop at, and we have a lot of great green spaces, some cool hiking trails. So it's a fun town, and I've really enjoyed raising my family here. So if you're ever in the area, come check us out. There's lots to do. It's a great place.
Just south of Austin, not too far. So
Correct.
very good.
We're
very good.
halfway between San Antonio and Austin, right between the two.
Yeah, my own daughter, Katie, my 22-year-old, she's going to be a senior at Texas State, and you have a Katie that's going to be a senior at Texas State. We spent a fair amount of time in San Marcos, so it's a neat little town. Another journey you're on is really bringing lifestyle medicine into your practice, and you're currently studying for your boards.
Lifestyle medicine is a relatively new specialty in medicine. It is a evidence-based board certification, and you can do a residency in it if you are fresh out of medical school. For people like me who have been in practice and have experience, they have another pathway that you can do to get board certified. So as if I wasn't busy enough, I thought, oh, let me do a second board certification. Sure, in my spare time, I'll do that. But I was really drawn when I first heard about lifestyle medicine. I was really drawn to it because it emphasizes, as the name implies, the core habits that we have that really promote health. And so in a way, what I've been doing for the last 20 plus years is not healthcare, it's sick care, right? When a patient comes in to see me and they're sick, I try to cure them. If they are developing nutrition or health lifestyle related diseases like diabetes and those sorts of related things. Fortunately, in pediatrics, our patients don't often actually have the diseases, but they are well on their way to developing them. And so lifestyle medicine is great for pediatrics because it's really focused on prevention. So it's healthcare. How can I keep you healthy? And again, evidence is very important to me. I am very strongly an evidence-based practitioner, and there is a surprising amount, an overwhelming amount of evidence to support the things like eating a healthy diet, of course, not smoking, not overdoing alcohol, exercise, sleep, and stress management, all of these basic, what they're called pillars, the 6 pillars of lifestyle medicine, to not only prevent all these chronic diseases that are plaguing our society, and that's where, as a pediatrician, I focus, but even in the adult world, to treat or even reverse, in many cases, these chronic diseases. So think of somebody with type 2 diabetes who is on insulin to manage. They can reverse, not just treat, but actually come off their meds with a lifestyle medicine intervention and the right diet. And that is very strongly supported by the evidence. Advanced cardiovascular disease, people who are on multiple medications, who have had heart attacks, who have stents in their arteries, can actually reverse some of the damage done to their heart and come off many of those medications. And the evidence is growing every day that that's possible. It's very powerful. Now, that's not to say that it's easy, right? These are some of the hardest things we do, trying to learn how to overcome our less healthy habits. But that's the focus of lifestyle medicine. It was very appealing to me as a pediatrician. And so I decided that I wanted to get the board certification and shift my focus as a pediatrician over to more of this preventative style of medicine, where I am really taking more time with my patients than the conventional style of practice has allowed me to do in talking about these healthy lifestyle habits and helping my patients to cultivate them.
I think everyone can hear it in your voice. It's neat listening to you talk about your patients, and not just the patient. It's not just the patient coming to visit you, it's the family. So turning to today's topic, this holistic approach, you're looking at the whole patient, you're looking at the whole family. And when we talk about food insecurity, that doesn't just affect our smallest patients. It obviously affects their patient or their families as well. So why don't you tell us how you got interested in addressing this unmet need of food insecurity with your patients?
Absolutely. So you're right. As a pediatrician, we don't have one patient. We have a whole room full of patients, right? The whole family, really, because the parents are the ones following and implementing our medical advice. And I will tell you, I say this often, I have never met a single parent in my 20 plus years of practicing who doesn't genuinely want to do what's right for their child. Our capacity to do that is not always the best, right? If you have stress, financial stress, or all the things that just go into life, it can be challenging to be the best parent that we want to be. But I guarantee you that every parent has the intention of giving their kids the best start at life that they can. And that's really one of the main things that drew me to pediatrics. When I was in medical school and I was on the internal medicine rotations and I had older patients, and this was before I'd ever heard of anything like lifestyle medicine, but, older patients who were by and large there in the hospital because of, smoking, morbidly obese, and having all the things that go with it. And I thought, if I can't, it's hard enough for me to eat healthy or to change my habits. How am I going to get this? And, I'm in my 20s, so this, 50, 60-year-old old codger seemed ancient to me. How am I going to get somebody like that to change their habits if I can't, it's hard enough to do it for myself. But in pediatrics, gosh, the parents really want to know. They want your advice. They want to know, doctor, how can I, what can I feed my kid? How can I work with my picky eater? And so, right. So that was just, I really felt like I had a great opportunity to make the biggest difference in my patients' lives. And it's complex, as I have learned over the 20 years. It's not as easy as just saying, hey, they should eat more broccoli, quit giving them junk food, and poof, everything's, cured, right? It doesn't work that way. And when you add in the overwhelming stress that goes with being food insecure, it's really difficult to help those families make a difference in their patients' lives. So I really became interested in that as I have gone on this journey to being board certified in lifestyle medicine and really thinking about, what can I do that will really make a difference and how can I address it for my patients and in the community. So that led me I'll go back. I mean, for years, I've supported our local food bank. Every winter around Thanksgiving, between Thanksgiving and Christmas, Corridor Pediatrics does a food drive with our employees. So we put a box in the break room. I make, as my Christmas gift to the group, I make a base donation of around $100 to the food bank. And then I put a box in the break room. And for every item that our employees put in that box of food donation, I add another dollar to my donation. So not only are we making a financial contribution to the local food bank, but also actual food products that they need to pass out. And so I've done that for years on behalf of Corridor Pediatrics. I've always been a big supporter. And as a part of my podcast, I had the opportunity to interview the executive director of the Hays County Food Bank. And it just, from there, my interest in continuing my support of their efforts has grown.
I love that. From a practical standpoint, I've talked to quite a few docs, and there's more and more noise in professional societies, state societies, to focus on social determinants of health inequality, food insecurity comes up. So I'm curious, if you've got a patient in front of you, I'm just kind of talking through this, what kind of stresses are on the family or your patient that, if they're food insecure, are different from a patient or the family that's not food insecure?
Sure. Well, it's hard to tease out because all of this is complex. But what we notice in children who are affected by food insecurity is, the stress that the family is under directly affects the children as well. But that may manifest as behavior issues, right? They may be more likely to act out. If you're either very stressed or hungry, you can't focus. And for children, that means they're not doing well academically. And if they're not able to focus in class, what are they doing? They're acting out. So maybe the teacher is telling the parent, you need to get your child evaluated for ADHD. So those are, some of the things that we see that although they have lots of different causes, it could be one of them. It could be the family stress and just having lack of adequate calories and being hungry that's affecting the children. We'll have teachers who, and I know this from my interview with the Hays County Food Bank director, that, the last meal that the child had might have been lunch at school the day before, and they're showing up at school hungry. And so they're not able to focus and learn. I've had parents who want to make the baby formula, go farther. So they're diluting it with extra water so they have more volume, which means the baby isn't getting the calories and nutrition in each bottle, and they're not gaining weight well. I remember one family who they had a toddler, so, between 15 to 18 months old, who still hadn't actually started eating solid food. They were they felt like it was cheaper and easier to give fruits and vegetables in the form of baby food. And so the toddler hadn't started eating solid food yet because the family couldn't afford to buy the meat and the produce, and were using their WIC funds just to buy baby food, pureed baby food. And then, of course, families who aren't going to fill their medication prescriptions, if they're uninsured and they have to choose between affording the medication versus affording their groceries, they're going to choose the groceries. And so we have kids with things like asthma who aren't getting their asthma medications. And then that also has, effects on school absenteeism. If you can't breathe well, again, you're not going to focus on your class if you're having, uncontrolled asthma, and you can't participate in physical activity. They're not able to do PE, or they're not going to play at recess. The impact of food insecurity on children is significant. It's a significant impact on every aspect of their childhood, on their ability to be a kid and do the things that kids need to do.
After talking to the executive director at Hays County Food Bank, you had an idea to bring a food pantry into your practice. Walk us through that step. What made you? How'd you come up with this idea?
I wish I could take credit for it. A part of my program that I'm developing with my practice is to partner with Texas State University and their nutrition sciences department. And so one of the faculty members that I've been working with runs the Bobcat Bounty Food Pantry on campus for students. And so she was really the one that suggested it. She just threw it out there one day, like, hey, have you ever thought about having a food pantry in your office? The schools will have small food pantries to help families. And there's lots. It doesn't have to just be medical provider. Honestly, the food bank will partner with any kind of organization. So churches will have them, other nonprofits, other groups can definitely do this. And it was way easier than I expected. So the Texas State faculty member threw this idea out, and I thought, well, let me just call up Lisa Young here with the Hays County Food Bank and just run it by her. And she was like, oh, yeah. And it was like we filled out this one-page application, and we did purchase some bags with Corridor logo on it, and I drop off the bags at the food bank. The food bank volunteers fill them up. I pick them up, and we have them on some shelves in our office. Because they are giving us food that has been donated, they are not giving us food that they used federal funds to purchase. We don't have to collect any kind of financial data. So our patients just have to be identified as being food insecure. They just have to tell us that they're struggling to buy groceries, and they get food from us. They don't have to qualify in any way. So it's very straightforward. We identify the need. We just track some basic information that I can give back to the food bank at the end of the month, and they take a bag of food home with them from our office.
So they don't, I love that. I think that's a really important point because I think some folks thinking about doing this, whether it's a practice or, like you said, someone else wants to bring a food pantry into their church or whatever. If someone tells you they're hungry, or you suspect, whether, verbally or we'll talk about a screening tool in just a little bit. If they tell you you're hungry, like that's enough for you, right? They get food.
That's it. And there's no judgment. We don't have to decide, do you deserve this? All they have to do is say we need food. I mean, sometimes we have, say, power outages, and maybe they can afford their groceries on a regular basis. But you remember a few years back, we had what here in Texas we call snowpocalypse, where the power grid failed
Yeah.
during a big snowstorm in February, and people were without power for over a week. And so their groceries all went bad, and they couldn't afford necessarily to restock their entire refrigerator. Well, that falls under this need. All they have to do is say, I can't buy my groceries this week, and we can give them food. It doesn't have to be, they don't have to be food insecure enough. We don't have to judge any of that. They just tell us they're in need, and we can give food and help them. And I think that's great, because the reasons that people need help, again, just like all the other things I've talked about, they're complex and they're variable, and they may change from month to month. And so we can just help people without any extra need or burden on our staff. I have a little log, and we just write down how many bags of food we gave out, how many families we're serving. We don't share any personal information with the food bank, and it's as easy as that. Just tell us you're hungry, take some food home.
I love that. A friend of mine just a couple of weeks ago said that adults and kids are very, very good at hiding their problems. Folks are really good at hiding hunger, and you can't just look at someone and say, you've got food insecurity, and you don't. You're hungry and you're not. So I love that you don't put any stipulations. There's no qualifiers on it. If somebody has a need, y'all are there to support them. That's wonderful. Very cool. All right, so let's get into some of the concerns that folks might have. And there's something called a last mile site. And I think Hays County has maybe 31 or 32, something like that, last mile sites that, I don't know if protect's the right word, but the need to document any type of state or federal regulations or anything like that is completely taken away, and all the onus is on the actual food bank, not the practice, not the school, not the church.
So a last mile site is simply a community food pantry, and Corridor Pediatrics is the 31st, so the newest last mile food pantry in Hays County. One of the main factors influencing food insecurity is transportation. The food bank has their regular distributions at their main location once or twice a week, but it's during the week, it's during business hours, and you have to go there and you have to get in line in your car and drive up, and they'll bring out the food and put it in your trunk and you drive away. Well, if you don't have access to regular transportation, you can't get to the food bank to get help, or you can't get to the grocery store to buy your groceries, and you can't get to the food bank to get help. But many people will either arrange for a ride, or they'll take the public carts, capital area rapid transits, those little buses that you can schedule to get to their doctor's appointment. So if they're already there, then we can give them food as a last mile site. So the last mile sites are community food pantries that just help people who can't get to the food bank for their regular distributions. Maybe they have transportation, but it's during the work hours and they can't afford to take off work. But they have an appointment for their kid to come in. They know the importance of bringing their child in, so they have taken off work to bring their child in for their doctor's appointment. So we can give them food there. So it's just another way for the food bank to serve the community, to make it easier for people in need to access the food, to get the food distributions without actually having to go to the distribution site.
Yeah, that's important, because what I found is there's a network, there's a safety net at city, state, federal levels, but there's a lot of holes in our safety net. Certainly, 20% of those eligible for SNAP are not enrolled. 50% are eligible for WIC. WIC stands for Women, Infant, and Children. 50% of those eligible are not enrolled. And WIC, just FYI, you think of it as just infants, but it actually takes from the point of pregnancy through birth all the way up to 5 years old. And so even though there is safety nets, there's a lot of holes in them, and there's a lot of reasons. Transportation is one of the big ones that I've heard prevent somebody. So just the fact of putting these last mile sites scattered throughout the town just makes it easier for folks to get help. So that's wonderful. Thanks. What about costs or requirements to become a last mile site?
So my goal with this, first of all, the cost has been minimal. We did, as a group, Corridor Pediatrics purchased those bags with our logo. But you don't have to do that. You can just get a bunch of recycled grocery bags and drop those off. You don't have to have your own custom-made logo bags. We decided to go ahead and do that just to help the food bank and to have something that the patients have to take their food home in. But that was pretty minimal. They're not that expensive. There's been some printing costs associated with it. We have a poster up in the lobby notifying people, but that was really pretty much it. So the financial cost to our group has been negligible. My goal was also to make the time and personnel burden as low as possible. A busy private pediatric practice, our employees already work really hard. The front desk staff, checking people in and out, scheduling appointments, answering phones, the nurses, taking patients back. Pediatrics, there's a lot that goes on. They have vision screening, hearing screening, developmental screening. Of course, there's the vaccines, there's, vital signs. There's a lot that our nurses do. In fact, the employees, the front desk staff, the business office, and the nurses, I'll tell you, they work way harder than the doctors do. I'll just say that right there. They are so dedicated, and they give 110% every day. So I really did not want to add to the burden of our already overworked staff. So I wanted to make it as easy as possible, which is why, like I said, somebody comes in, they only have to, it is just for our patients. So they have to take the name and date of birth of one child in the family that we see and write it in a log. And then they just write down the date and how many bags of food that the family got. We give one bag for a family of up to 4 and 2 bags if there's 5 or more in the household. And that's it. So it should take 2 minutes to do all of that and give the family the bag of food for them to leave with just as little effort and time on behalf of our employees as possible.
Wonderful. Easy. So it's not that big of a commitment. Take some work up front, just networking, introductions, and make it. So curious, how many bags of food did y'all start with?
I dropped off 10 bags and put them on the shelf. And this is a brand new endeavor for us. We just started it this month, and we are putting it out on social media. We have the sign in the lobby. One of the things that is still coming that hasn't started yet is having what's called the hunger vital sign questions in our electronic check-in process. So, when you have an appointment with a doctor, you get that text the day before the appointment saying, please check in for your appointment now. And, you fill out all of the required HIPAA forms and financial stuff and whatever. Pretty soon, as soon as the tech people get it up and running, our patients will also answer 2 questions. It's a standardized, validated questionnaire to screen for food insecurity. And so they will have the opportunity to check yes or no. And the 2 questions are, within the past 12 months, we worried whether our food would run out before we got money to buy more. And number 2 is, within the past 12 months, the food we bought just didn't last and we didn't have money to get more. So if they check yes to either of those statements, then it gets a flag put up for our staff to identify that they may want to participate in our program. We also give them some handouts on how to apply for SNAP and WIC and how to apply for regular distributions from the food bank if they want to. Once we have that up and running, I think the word is really going to get out more that we have this program. So I initially dropped off 10 bags to the food pantry that they filled up and we put on the shelves. And we'll just go from there as, we see what the need is and as more and more families are aware that we have this program. We also invite any family that wants to bring donations. So one of the pieces of information on the poster and in the little electronic check-in form is, if you'd like to support our efforts, next time you come in for your appointment, please bring a few cans of non-perishable food, and we will put those directly into the bags of food that we're giving out. So you are directly helping your fellow Corridor patients.
That's wonderful. Helping your neighbors. That is so cool. I love this. Y'all are doing this. This is really, really neat. So, and then the bags, y'all don't have, I'm sure the space you had was already limited. So this doesn't take a lot of space and you don't have a refrigerator. So these are all non-perishable items, correct?
Correct. Yes. We're not trying to manage fresh produce or anything that's going to spoil. We had an empty metal rack that just happened to be in our business office, and we just put the food bags on there. And so it's really taking up. That was one of my initial concerns when I thought about it was, where would we put this? We don't have a lot of storage space in our office. But yeah, literally one small set of metal shelves in our business office that we put the bags of food on, and it's right there where the front desk staff can grab it and give it.
Wow, this is easy. So it sounds like very minimal disruption, very minimal maintenance, minimal time, virtually no cost. Kind of easy?
So easy, so low maintenance. Really, anybody can do this. The busiest medical practice could do this easily. Even my time as the person who is organizing it, I will have a few extra tasks. I have to collect those statistics. How many families are we serving? How many bags of food did we give out at the end of the month, and submit that to the food pantry. And then I'm the one dropping the bags off and picking them up to bring to the office. That's it.
And it's got to be, I'm sure your staff engaged as well. It's got to feel good to them to know that they're helping their patients and their families in another way. So this is wonderful. I'm so excited for y'all that y'all are doing this. This is really neat.
Everybody's been so enthusiastic about the program. Really, the big question we have is, why didn't we think to do this sooner? It's been so easy, and the feedback from the patients has been positive. The kids are so happy. We had one come up with their bag of donation to give to the front desk staff, and they were just so happy to give it over. Like, we brought this to give to y'all, and
cool.
It was sweet. So yeah, we've had a really positive response, and we're just working to get the word out so the rest of the community knows that we're doing this.
Fostering community. I love it. And so, you've also had some folks come and ask for at least one of your bags so far, right?
Right. To my knowledge, we have served one whole family. We're just getting started, though. It's the first of many.
I know. Yeah, this is wonderful. Oh, so excited. You've gone through a lot of just really practical things that I think someone might need to think about. Right. Anything else?
Just call your local food bank and ask them. I'm sure they will be thrilled for anybody that wants to partner with them to help them in their work.
That's wonderful. Wonderful. Thank you so much for all this. This has been great. So, all right. So let's just give you an opportunity real quick to tell us about Eat Your Greens with Dr. Black.
Well, one of the things I've noticed over the years, and I alluded to this a little bit, is that just telling families in my 15 minutes that I have in the office with them for an appointment, hey, fruits and vegetables are healthy, and maybe you should feed your kids more of that and feed them less junk food. It's really not that effective in changing people's habits. Shocking, I know. So one of the things I'm doing is, like I said, partnering with Texas State, and we're developing a whole program focused on nutrition and preventing and treating obesity and other related diseases, pre-diabetes. We have patients in their early teens whose liver enzymes are already going up because they're developing non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. At such a young age, their cholesterol is already high, their blood pressure may be high. And so I'm partnering with Texas State to develop a nutrition curriculum to bring in dietitians to provide services to our patients. And as a part of that, I really wanted a means to go into more detail about what a healthy diet looks like and ways to change habits that really anybody at any stage of their life will benefit in a way that I could go into more detail than I can in our brief patient interactions in the office. So as a part of that, I developed the Eat Your Greens with Dr. Black podcast. I launched it last December, so we're about 6 months in, and it gives me time to talk more about a whole food, plant-based diet and what that looks like. What is an ultra-processed food? Why is it bad for us? Anybody that's met me, I'll just background, my undergraduate degree is in microbiology, and I have always found the microbial world to be just so fascinating. And so I got to do an hour-long podcast episode about the microbiome, talking to one of the Texas State faculty members, a scientist who's actually studying and teaching about the microbiome. And I got to nerd out in great detail about that, for an hour. It was like heaven for me. I don't know how many of my listeners, found it that, but I just was crazy. Let me tell you about this crazy thing that they're doing to study, bacterial life in your colon. It's so awesome. I think that was more of a niche target audience than maybe, but I thought it was great. So I've had a lot of fun doing it. I get to talk more about the importance of things like fiber. Why should we get more fiber in our diet? It's not just for constipation. There's so many more things so many more health benefits to eating a high fiber diet. But it's also given me the opportunity to meet people like you more and to have conversations with people that I never would have had the chance to talk to. I did an episode recently. It hasn't, as of the date of this recording, hasn't been released yet. A therapist out of Austin who's working with patients with avoidant restrictive food intake disorder. I'm learning, lifelong learning is important. So it's also giving me the chance to really learn things that I wouldn't have taken the time to read about. So it's been great. I've had a lot of fun with it, and I'm looking forward to continuing to do that. And it's just one of the pieces of this overall program that I'm working on to really help foster healthy habits, healthy nutrition in our community, in my patients, and beyond.
That's wonderful. That is so cool. I know that episode when you went down to the microbiome, I hadn't really studied it or learned much about it before that episode, but there was just the conversation back and forth between you and the professor at Texas State. It caused me to be curious, and I've gone down a very deep hole since that episode of countless podcasts and papers, just trying to learn all I can. And it's, for me personally and my family, it's got us to really focus more on fiber and plant-based, and just learning so much more about how our body works. So that's exciting. Thank you so much for that.
The research right now into the microbiome is exploding. We are learning more every day. It seems like every time I open my email, there's another alert about an article that's come out about how the microbiome affects basically every aspect of our health, not only our mental health, our physical health, our immune system, emotional health, like depression, anxiety, cognition, dementia. Some new research was just released showing that a whole food plant-based diet can actually slow the progress of Alzheimer's in patients who have already been diagnosed. And it's really thought, a lot of that is thought to come from the effects on the gut microbiome and how they just affect our whole body. So It's so fascinating. There are probably a dozen documentaries right now out on Netflix and the other streaming platforms. So if you're interested, start reading about it. But the bottom line is you support your microbiome by eating foods high in fiber. And the only kind of food that has fiber is from plants. Animals don't have any fiber at all. So I tell my patients to pretend that they have a turtle that lives in their tummy. They have a pet turtle. And turtles like to eat healthy, like things like spinach, fresh greens, berries, fruit. And so you have to feed your turtle. Take care of your pet turtle, and it will take care of you.
I love that. That's fantastic. Oh, Dr. Black, this has been wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing with us, taking some time. I will definitely let you, if someone listening to this reaches out and lets us know that they're trying to do this in their own medical practice or church or neighborhood or whatever. So I think your journey and your experience will be able to help quite a few people. So thank you so much for that. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. I hope this inspires others to do something similar, to look at food insecurity in their community and find ways that they can help. It's really been easy, and I would be happy to email with or talk with anybody that has questions about what we've been doing at Corridor Pediatrics.
Oh, wonderful. Okay, so lastly, where can folks find you?
They can email me, dr.black, and that's dr.black at eatgreenswithdrblack.com. You can also just go to my website. That's eatgreenswithdrblack.com, and there's a contact form on there, so you can reach out to me that way. And you can find me at Corridor Pediatrics. That's corridorpd.com, letter P, letter D, corridorpd.com. And call the office and leave a message. The staff will forward that message to me, and I can give people a call back.
You're wonderful. Oh, that's great. Thanks so much. This is I've thoroughly enjoyed this. It's been a lot of fun. So we appreciate you. Thanks.
Thanks for having me, and thanks for all the work that you're doing also to foster health and to offset the effects of food insecurity. I'm really happy to be on your podcast. I love listening to the episodes and hearing all the success stories of people who are overcoming the challenges and all the ways that you're helping to make Bernie the healthiest small town in Texas.
And San Marcos might not be too far behind us.
We're going to work on.
Very good. All right. Thanks a lot, Dr. Black.
Bye-bye.
Thanks so much for listening. Please rate and review the podcast on the platform of your choice so we can reach more people and more people are recommended this podcast. And if you really liked it, the single best way you can help us grow is by telling your friends. Now, for all the legal stuff. The views and opinion expressed in this program are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of any entities they represent. For my day job, I'm an employee of AbbVie and appear on this podcast on my own accord and not in the professional capacity as an AbbVie employee. All viewpoints provided are my personal opinions and not intended to reflect those of my employer. If you have any questions or comments, please shoot me an email at jolly@interrupthunger.org. Let's go spread some joy, people.